Question is Mr Barr's motion be agreed to. Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to speak to the motion circulated by Mr Barr today. I believe that the rights of the Territory to determine its legislation, its own legislation, is important, is paramount to the citizens of the ACT. I think that most people in the ACT would expect that their elected Assembly representatives would have the right to determine laws in all areas of our life. It's not just roads, rates and rubbish, it's not just health and education and our legal system. It should be across all areas of our life. I don't think it's right that we've been stopped by people from all over Australia from determining our own laws in this way. It is denying us our democratic rights. Mr Barr mentioned that people 15 minutes away in Queanbeyan, for example, have those rights and we don't. In fact, from where I live, it's only 10 minutes to Queanbeyan. And those people only 10 minutes away have the right that we don't have here in the ACT. I would like to thank those of my federal Liberal colleagues in the Senate who did support the vote yesterday. I would especially like to thank those Cabinet members who supported the vote, including Maurice Payne, Nigel Scullion and Simon Birmingham, and also thank you to Senator Ian MacDonald. Whilst this is about Territory rights, I will take the opportunity to make quite clear my own views on end-of-life choices, because rightly or wrongly, from the start, this issue has been conflated with voluntary assisted dying, and I think that was problematic from the start, that while the dialogue changed over time, it started off about lobbying for euthanasia or voluntary assisted dying and then having to deal with the Andrews Bill to get that through. So I think that was what caused a lot of the issues to start with. And my views in this area are informed by something that happened back when I was a young teenager. My mother and I spent weeks on end interstate with my aunt who was dying of breast cancer. She was in unimaginable pain, and I can remember hearing my aunt and my mother sobbing and crying together, and my aunt begging my mother to help her end her suffering. My mother could not bring herself to do it. She was too afraid of the repercussions, and my aunt was not physically able to do it herself. This is something that has stayed with me ever since that time. And of course, there have been other people near and dear to me since that time who've gone through similar end-of-life issues. But that was the one that has the most long-lasting impact in my memory. And of course, only weeks later, my aunt did die from breast cancer. She was riddled with cancer throughout her body. But in those ensuing weeks, she endured terrible, terrible pain and suffering. So since then, I have been in favour of voluntary assisted dying. I would also like to put on record, though, that I have very grave concerns about the way this may impact vulnerable groups in our community, not least of which include many people in the disability community who've spoken to me about this over the years. They're concerned that their value, their lives may be seen as less, and the effort put into looking after them in a medical sense may be reduced with these laws. And that's an area that, if we're looking down the track after the committee reports, if we're looking at these end-of-life choices, that's an area that we need to very, very strongly look at. So, in conclusion, I would like to thank Mr Barr for bringing this motion today and say thank you also to my colleagues for our discussion about allowing this as a conscience vote today, and I will be supporting Mr Barr's motion.
Question